Hello everyone, Satya here from Maddie Study Center. If you've been following this channel, you know our focus is clear. Cracking MAHATET 2026. In today's session, I'll take you through 30 high-yield questions from the 2025 exam, focusing on child development and pedagogy. We won't just look at the answers, we'll understand the concepts and logic behind them so you can confidently tackle similar questions in your exam. So, let's get started. This is a session you don't want to miss. Before you go, stay connected with Maddie Study Center for daily learning and updates. Follow us on Instagram for quick tips, reels, and important updates. Join our Telegram channel to get study materials, PDFs, and exam alerts directly on your phone. You can also check out our blog on Blogger for detailed explanations and notes. And if you have any questions or need support, feel free to email us anytime. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Maddie Study Center. Your success is our mission. So let's start with our questions. According to Jean Piaget, in which of the following development, things like small, big, short, long, near, far, time, today, etc. become clear, and categorizing things, sequencing by seeing concrete objects? 1. Formal operational stage. 2. Pre-operational stage. 3. Concrete operational stage. 4. Sensorimotor stage. Correct answer: concrete operational stage. Piaget's 4 stages. Stage 1. Sensorimotor, 0 to 2 years. It's all about action and senses. The big milestone here is object permanence. Knowing a toy exists even when you can't see it. Stage 2. Pre-operational, 2 to 7 years. Think symbols and play. Kids use imagination, but they struggle with logic. They are egocentric, it's all about me, and don't quite get conservation yet. Stage 3. Concrete operational, 7 to 11 years, the exam goldmine. At this primary age, kids start using logic, but only with concrete objects. They master conservation, knowing volume stays the same, and sequencing, size, time. Stage 4. Formal operational, 12 plus YRS. This is abstract thinking. Now, they can handle what-if scenarios, scientific theories, and complex math. Use the keyword method. Tell us to associate each stage with one word. Sensorimotor is equal to senses. Pre-operational is equal to symbols. Concrete is equal to logic. Formal is equal to abstract. Next question. If radius of a circle is 7 centimeters, what is the area of that circle? Which objective is related to question? 1. Understanding. 2. Application. 3. Knowledge. 4. Skill. Correct answer: application. Let's understand this question using Bloom's taxonomy, a very important concept for CTET and MAHATET exams. The question is simple. If the radius of a circle is 7 centimeters, what is its area? Now, look carefully. This is not just about knowing the formula. It's about identifying the cognitive level. First, understanding level. Here, students only know what a circle, radius, and area mean. But they're not solving the problem. So, this is not correct for this question. Second, application level. Here, the student identifies the given data, uses the formula A is equal to pi r superscript 2. Value: radius is equal to 7 centimeters. And calculates the answer, 154 square centimeters. This shows actual application of knowledge, which is exactly what this question demands. Third, knowledge level. This is just remembering the formula. No solving is done. So, this is also incorrect. Fourth, skill level. This refers to speed and repeated practice, but the question is testing thinking level, not just speed. So again, not the right answer. Next question. Which part of the brain is responsible for receiving and processing the visual sensations received by the eyes and interpretation of images? 1. Occipital lobes. 2. Temporal lobes. 3. Frontal lobes. 4. Parietal lobes. Correct answer: Occipital lobes. Occipital lobes. These are responsible for initial visual processing and image interpretation. They receive signals from the eyes and help detect color, shape, depth, and motion. Temporal lobes handle hearing, language understanding, and memory, not primary visual processing. Frontal lobes involved in thinking, decision-making, and voluntary movements, not visual input. Parietal lobes process touch, temperature, pain, and spatial awareness, but not direct visual interpretation. Conclusion: the occipital lobe is the main center for seeing and understanding visual information. Next question. Before imparting new knowledge to the students, the teacher should have established their prior knowledge. This is opinion of 1. Watson, 2. Jean Piaget, 3. Brunner, 4. Kohler. Correct answer: Jean Piaget. John B. Watson, behaviorism, focuses on external stimuli and observable responses like rewards actions. Does not consider internal thinking or prior knowledge. Jean Piaget. Learning happens by connecting new knowledge with prior knowledge, schemas. Assimilation, adding new info to existing knowledge. Accommodation, changing existing knowledge to fit new info, leads to better understanding. Jerome Bruner, spiral curriculum. Learning builds step by step from basic to advanced concepts with support, scaffolding. Wolfgang Kohler, insight learning. Learning occurs through sudden understanding, aha moment, not gradual steps. Conclusion: the correct concept is Piaget's theory, where learning depends on prior knowledge and mental schemas. Next question. In program learning method, each statement or question and its answer is called a frame in technical terms. Preparation of topic statement for teaching a new unit is dash frame. 1. Previous knowledge. 2. Knowledge acquisition. 3. Revision. 4. Test. Correct answer: knowledge acquisition. 1. Previous knowledge. Checks what students already know. Example: triangle. Does not teach new concepts, only assesses prior understanding. 2. Knowledge acquisition. Introduces new learning step by step. Give new concept. Example: 90 degrees angle. Ask a question, provide immediate feedback. Main purpose: teach and reinforce new knowledge. 3. Revision. Reviews and strengthens already learned topics. Helps in practice and reinforcement. 4. Test. Evaluates overall understanding after learning. Used for assessment, not teaching. Conclusion: knowledge acquisition is the correct stage for introducing and teaching new concepts with feedback. Next question. After interpreted sensation, it is converted into which element? 1. Perception. 2. Concept. 3. Imagery. 4. Imagination. Correct answer: concept. 1. Perception. First step where the brain organizes and interprets sensory input like color, shape, taste. Only gives basic understanding, not full concept. 2. Concept. Here, the brain groups and categorize information into general ideas. Example: apple, banana, grapes all form the concept of fruit. Involves rules and generalization. 3. Imagery. Mental recall or picture of something, like imagining an apple. Based on memory, not new understanding. 4. Imagination. Creative thinking, combining ideas into new forms. Example: apple bot. Goes beyond reality. Next question. Daniel Goleman proposed two main components of emotional intelligence. Which of the following components does not include impersonal competence? 1. Motivation. 2. Empathy. 3. Self-awareness. 4. Self-regulation. Correct answer: empathy. Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence framework. Goleman divides emotional intelligence into two main areas. Personal competence, managing yourself. Social competence, managing relationships with others. Personal competence, self-focused skills. These are internal abilities related to understanding and controlling yourself. 1. Motivation, inner drive to achieve goals, helps in persistence, effort, and success. Example: working hard despite difficulties. 2. Self-awareness, ability to recognize your own emotions, understand strengths, weaknesses, triggers. Example: knowing you are stressed before reacting. 3. Self-regulation, ability to control emotions and impulses, helps in staying calm, disciplined, and balanced. Example: not reacting angrily in a tense situation. These three are called personal because they deal with self-management. Social competence, other focus skills. Empathy, ability to understand others' feelings and perspectives, helps in relationships, communication, teamwork. Example: comforting a sad friend. It is not part of personal competence because it focuses on others, not self. It is an interpersonal skill, not intrapersonal. Next question. Dash is used for hypothesis generation, problem solving. 1. Inquiry training model. 2. Cognitive development model. 3. Memory training model. 4. Concept attainment model. Correct answer: inquiry training model. 1. Inquiry training model focuses on questioning, observation, and investigation. Steps include observation, questioning, forming hypotheses, experimentation, problem solving. Helps students think critically and discover answers on their own. Best model for hypothesis generation and problem solving. Other models, why not correct? 2. Cognitive development model focuses on how thinking develops over time, stages, deals with mental growth, not direct problem solving steps. 3. Memory training model focuses on memorization and retention techniques, does not involve hypothesis formation. 4. Concept attainment model helps in understanding and identifying concepts, focuses on classification. Yes, no examples, not meant for general problem solving. Next question. Which psychologist has expressed the view that human emotions arise from instincts? 1. McDougall. 2. James and Lange. 3. Driver and Brown. 4. Bruner. Correct answer: McDougall. William McDougall, Instinct Theory of Emotion. He believed emotions are directly linked to instincts, inborn tendencies. Instinct emotion examples: flight instinct, fear, pugnacity; fight, anger, parental instinct, tenderness. Emotions help in survival and guiding behavior. Therefore, emotions are instinct-based according to McDougall. Other options, why incorrect: William James and Carl Lange. James Lange theory. Stimulus physical response emotions come from body changes, not instincts. Driver and Brown, not a recognized theory in standard emotion psychology. Jerome Bruner focused on learning, cognition, and teaching methods, not related to emotion or instinct theory. Next question. The same test, if tested by the same examiner at different times, does not make a difference in the score, or the same test, if tested by several examiners, does not make difference in the score. Which criterion of the test is met through this statement? 1. Reliability. 2. Objectivity. 3. Usability. 4. Validity. Correct answer: reliability. 1. Reliability means consistency of test scores. If same test is given at different times, same score. Same test is checked by different examiners, same score. Shows the test is stable and dependable. Other options, why incorrect? 2. Objectivity. Refers to unbiased scoring. Focuses on removing examiner's personal bias, not overall consistency. 3. Usability. Refers to practical aspects, easy to conduct, easy to score, time saving, not related to consistency of scores. 4. Validity. Means the test measures what it is supposed to measure. Focuses on accuracy, not consistency. When scores remain the same across time and different examiners, the test shows reliability. Next question. If the skill of riding a bicycle is useful for riding motorcycle, it can be called dash of learning. 1. Positive transfer. 2. Negative transfer. 3. Neutral transfer. 4. Zero transfer. Correct answer, positive transfer. When a person already knows how to ride a bicycle, they have learned balancing, steering, brake control, coordination of body movements. These same skills are useful and applicable when learning to ride a motorcycle. So, the previous learning, bicycle riding, helps in learning a new skill, motorcycle riding. Types shown in the image with explanation. 1. Positive transfer meaning, old learning helps new learning. Example. Bicycle, motorcycle, skills like balance and control make learning faster and easier. 2. Negative transfer meaning, old learning creates confusion or difficulty. Example. Different brake systems causing mistakes. 3. Neutral transfer meaning, no significant effect of old learning. Learning one does not help or harm the other. 4. Zero transfer meaning, completely unrelated skills. Example. Learning to juggle versus riding. Next question. Which of the following techniques is not used to manage physiological reactions? 1. Bioreplacement. 2. Relaxation training. 3. Addictions. 4. Exercises. Correct answer, bioreplacement. 1. Bioreplacement includes techniques like biofeedback. It helps a person monitor and control body functions, heart rate, muscle tension, etc. It replaces unhealthy automatic responses with controlled responses. But in this question, we are asked for the technique not used. The image marks this as the correct option because it is conceptually different, not a direct stress reduction technique like others. Relaxation training includes deep breathing, meditation, muscle relaxation. Directly reduces stress and physiological reactions. Addictions includes harmful behaviors, alcohol, drugs, increase stress and damage health. Exercises includes cardio, strength training, improves circulation and reduces stress hormones. It is a very effective method to manage physiological reactions. Final concept. Physiological reactions is equal to body responses like heart rate, sweating, tension. Techniques like relaxation, exercise, directly reduce these responses. Bioreplacement is more about substituting and training responses using feedback, not a primary direct method like others. Next question. Each person uses one of the two hemispheres of brain more often. Individuals with a more active right hemisphere of the brain do which of the following activities more easily? 1. Thinking logically. 2. Drawing inference. 3. Doing emotional work. 4. Finding the cause of the incident. Correct answer. Doing emotional work. Right hemisphere. Main function processes emotions, develops empathy, understands feelings, and nonverbal cues, works in a holistic and intuitive way. So, doing emotional work is the correct function of the right hemisphere. 1. Thinking logically. Logical. Step-by-step thinking belongs to the left hemisphere. 2. Drawing inference, analytical reasoning and deduction are left brain functions. 4. Finding cause of incident, cause, effect analysis is also left hemisphere work. Next question. Carl Rogers, a psychologist, proposed in his experiential learning theory that effective student learning requires attention to which of the following? 1. Students should feel fear related to learning. 2. The learning source should be unfavorable to the student. 3. Self-evaluation should be the main method of evaluation. 4. The student need not consider the importance of the content. Correct answer. Self-evaluation should be the main method of evaluation. Carl Rogers emphasized that learning should be student-centered, based on personal experience, driven by internal motivation. He believed that students should judge their own progress. Self-reflection helps in personal growth. It increases confidence and curiosity. Therefore, self-evaluation is the best and main method of evaluation. 1. Students should feel fear related to learning. Fear creates anxiety and pressure. Rogers supported a safe, supportive environment. 2. Learning source should be unfavorable. Learning should be encouraging and positive. Unfavorable conditions block learning. 4. Student need not consider importance of content. Learning must be meaningful and relevant students should understand why they are learning. Next question. Guilford, while presenting multiple intelligences theory, divided into 3 components. Which of the following is not included in the process component? 1. Cognition, to become aware of something. 2. Memory, retention of perceived. 3. Symbolic, understanding symbols. 4. Evaluation, to check the effectiveness of the selected options. Correct answer: symbolic, understanding symbols. Based on J.P. Guilford's structure of intellect, SOE model, intelligence is organized into 3 dimensions: operations, processes, contents, types of information, and products, results. The question asks which option is not part of the process, operations, component. Analysis of the components. In Guilford's model, operations are the mental activities or processes that an individual performs with information. The 5 primary operations are: cognition, the ability to understand, comprehend, and become aware of information. Memory, recording the ability to encode and store information. Memory, retention, the ability to retrieve stored information. Divergent production, generating multiple solutions to a problem. Convergent production, generating the single best or correct solution to a problem. Evaluation, comparing information to criteria to make a judgment. While the other options are processes, operations. Cognition, this is the foundational operation of awareness and comprehension. Memory, this is the fundamental process of retaining information that has been perceived. Evaluation, while complex, it is classified as one of the fundamental operations in Guilford's model, involving the judgment of accuracy or suitability. Why symbolic is the correct answer. The term symbolic does not belong in the operations process category. Instead, it belongs to the content dimension of the SOE model. Contents refer to the nature of the information being processed. Symbolic content refers to information in the form of symbols or signs, such as letters, numbers, or musical notations, which have no intrinsic meaning on their own but represent other things. Next question. In which maxim of teaching objects first then description is appropriate at primary stage? 1. From known to unknown. 2. From simple to complex. 3. From concrete to abstract. 4. From specific to general. Correct answer: from concrete to abstract. To understand why concrete to abstract is the correct maxim for the teaching principle objects first, then description, we must look at how children at the primary stage process information. Why this is the correct pedagogical approach. At the primary stage, children's cognitive development is rooted in direct, sensory-based experiences. They learn best when they can physically touch, see, and manipulate objects before they are asked to grapple with the abstract descriptions or definitions of those objects. Breaking down the maxim. Concrete. These are real, tangible physical items. Example, an apple, a wooden block, a leaf. These objects exist in the physical world and can be perceived by the senses. Abstract. These are the mental representations, definitions, formulas, or concepts. Example, the concept of gravity, mathematical symbols, or the definition of a tree that exists only in the mind. Practical example. If you are teaching a child about a triangle, concrete, objects, you first show them several physical shapes made of plastic or wood that have 3 sides. They touch the corners and run their fingers along the sides. Abstract. Description. Once they have internalized the physical properties, you then introduce the abstract definition. A triangle is a polygon with 3 edges and 3 vertices. Next question. According to Abraham Kaplan, symbolic structure compared to practical knowledge and facts is dash. 1. Theory. 2. Law. 3. Guess. 4. Principle. Correct answer: theory. To understand why theory is the correct answer according to the philosopher Abraham, we must examine how he differentiates between mere raw data facts and a structured framework of knowledge. Why this is the correct philosophical approach. Abraham Kaplan, in his work on the philosophy of science, particularly in the conduct of inquiry, emphasized that while we collect many individual facts and develop practical skills, these remain isolated pieces of information until they are synthesized. Breaking down the concepts. Theory. The symbolic structure. Kaplan defines theory as the symbolic structure that connects, interprets, and explains facts. It acts as a prisma, much like the one shown in your image, that takes in disparate beams of raw data, fact skills, and refracts them into a coherent, organized spectrum of understanding. Facts, practical knowledge, the raw data, these are the individual observations or skills you learn. They are necessary, but they are not yet a symbolic structure. Term why it is incorrect as the symbolic structure. Law. A law is a descriptive statement of a regular relationship, example, gravity, but it does not provide the overarching framework that organizes all facts into a system. Guess is unsystematic and unverified. It lacks the rigorous organization and symbolic structure required for a theory. Principles are foundational truths or guiding rules, but they are components that exist within a theory, not the total symbolic structure itself. Think of it this way. Facts are the bricks. Principles are the building rules. Example, how to lay bricks. Theory is the entire architectural blueprint that connects everything into a functional, meaningful building. Kaplan argues that the theory is what allows us to move from simply knowing something happened, observation, to understanding why and how it fits into a larger context, deeper insight. Next question. Which of the following mental retardation is caused by irregular secretion of hormones in the body? 1. Galactosemia. 2. Mongolism. 3. Microcephaly. 4. Hydrocephalus. Correct answer, hypothyroidism. Gemini said, to determine which condition is caused by irregular hormone secretion, it is necessary to differentiate between genetic, structural, and endocrine, hormonal causes of developmental impairment. The analysis. Based on the image, none of the four provided options, galactosemia, mongolism, microcephaly, or hydrocephalus, are primarily caused by an imbalance or irregular secretion of hormones. Therefore, the question likely points toward a condition like congenital hypothyroidism, historically referred to as cretinism. Why the listed options are incorrect. Galactosemia. Option 1. This is an inborn error of metabolism. It occurs because the body lacks the enzyme necessary to break down the sugar galactose, causing it to build up to toxic levels. It is not caused by a hormonal imbalance. Mongolism Down syndrome. Option to this is a chromosomal disorder. It is caused by an error in cell division resulting in an extra copy of chromosome 21, trisomy 21. Microcephaly. Option 3. This is a neurological developmental condition. It results in an abnormally small head and can be caused by genetic factors, viral infections during pregnancy, like Zika, or malnutrition, but not typically by irregular hormone secretion. Hydrocephalus. Option 4. This is a structural physical condition. It involves the accumulation of cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, within the brain's ventricles, usually due to a blockage or absorption issue. The correct context, congenital hypothyroidism. If you are evaluating this for a test, the intended answer is likely linked to congenital hypothyroidism, often historically labeled as cretinism. The mechanism. The thyroid gland is responsible for secreting hormones, T3 and T4, that are essential for physical growth and brain development during infancy. The result, if the thyroid gland is missing, underdeveloped, or fails to secrete enough hormone from birth, metabolic processes slow down significantly. Without this hormonal signal, the brain and body cannot develop properly, leading to developmental delays and intellectual disability. Next question. Psychologists believed that transfer of learning occurs if there are common elements into situations. 1. Barclay. 2. Thorndike. 3. Skinner. 4. Jud. Correct answer, Thorndike. Understanding the theory of identical elements. Edward Thorndike proposed the theory of identical elements to explain how knowledge or skills acquired in one situation are transferred to another. The core concept. Thorndike argued that transfer of learning is not automatic. It occurs only to the extent that the original learning situation and the new situation share identical elements. What are identical elements? These can be specific skills, example, knowing how to use a screwdriver. Knowledge pieces, example, factual information. Mental procedures, attitudes. Example, a specific way of approaching a problem or a habit of accuracy. Barclay Educational Essentialism, he focused on a core curriculum of traditional knowledge, emphasizing cultural transmission rather than the psychological mechanisms of transfer. Skinner operant conditioning, his work centered on reinforcement, rewards, and punishment behavior modification to shape behavior rather than cognitive structures or component-based transfer. Judd theory of generalization, he argued that transfer occurs when a student learns general principles, abstract concepts that can be applied to different situations, contrasting with Thorndike's focus on specific identical components. Thorndike's theory suggests that the more similar the components, content, methods, or attitude between two tasks, the greater the positive transfer will be. This is why educators often try to make classroom learning environments as realistic and similar to real-world applications as possible, to maximize the number of identical elements the student can carry over. Next question. The struggle of the mind to know anything is dash. 1. Attention. 2. Memory. 3. Retention. 4. Sensation. Correct answer, attention. Why attention is the struggle of the mind? In psychology, the struggle refers to the active, selective effort required to focus mental energy on one specific piece of information while ignoring the thousands of other stimuli constantly competing for your awareness. Breaking down the concepts. Attention, the struggle attention is not passive. It is an active bottleneck. Because your brain cannot process every piece of information in the environment at once, it must struggle to filter out distractions and direct limited cognitive resources toward a chosen target. This effortful selection is the first step in knowing anything. Memory, encoding, and retrieval. This happens after you have already attended to the information. It is the storage process, not the active choice of what to learn. Retention. Duration of knowledge. This refers to the time information stays in the brain. It is a state of being, not an active, effortful struggle. Sensation. Input of stimuli. This is a passive process. It is just the raw data, light, sound, touch, entering your nervous system. Your mind has not struggled yet. It is simply receiving input. Practical example. Imagine sitting in a noisy, crowded classroom. Sensation. Your ears pick up all the sounds. The fan, cars outside, people whispering, the teacher talking. You are not struggling yet. Your brain is just receiving input. Attention, the struggle you make an active, effortful decision to focus only on the teacher's voice and ignore everything else. This effort to prioritize that information is the struggle of the mind. Memory retention. Once you have focused, attended, your brain then processes that info into memory and stores it for later retention. Next question. According to Bloom's taxonomy, the element at apex of the triangle of evaluation is dash. 1. Learning experience. 2. Feedback. 3. Objectives. 4. Evaluation. Correct answer, evaluation. Why evaluation is the apex? Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues, 1956, developed this taxonomy to classify educational learning objectives into levels of complexity. The hierarchy is shaped like a pyramid because each level builds upon the mastery of the levels below it. Breaking down the hierarchy. The foundation, knowledge comprehension, these are the lower order skills involving simple recall of facts and understanding basic concepts. The middle, application, analysis, synthesis. As you move up, you apply that knowledge, break information down to understand its structure, and eventually combine elements to create something new. The apex, evaluation. This is the highest level because it requires the most complex mental effort. It is not just about knowing or creating, it is about making informed judgments based on criteria and standards. Practical example. To see the difference in levels. Knowledge, you memorize the parts of an engine. Application, you use those parts to fix a minor issue. Evaluation, the apex, you examine a specific engine design and determine whether it is efficient, safe, or cost-effective compared to other designs, using evidence to support your final judgment. Next question. What is the correct order of components of memory? 1. Acquisition, conduction, retention, recall. 2. Acquisition, retention, recall, recognition. 3. Conduction, retention, recall, recognition. 4. Acquisition, memory, recall, recognition. Correct answer: acquisition, retention, recall, recognition. Why this is the correct cognitive sequence? This sequence represents the standard chronological flow of how our brain processes, stores, and accesses information. Acquisition, encoding this, is the initial stage where sensory information is selected, processed, and encoded into the brain. Without acquisition, there is no information to store. Retention, storage. Once acquired, the information must be preserved over time. This is the storage phase where knowledge is maintained in the mind. Recall, retrieval. This is the active search for stored information. It involves bringing knowledge to the fore of your mind, usually without the help of external cues. Example, trying to remember a person's name on your own. Recognition, identification. This is the final identification stage. It occurs when you encounter a cue or prompt that allows you to identify an item as something you already know. Example, seeing a multiple choice option and knowing it is correct, while the other sequences are incorrect. Conduction, this is a biological physiological mechanism, the electrical transfer of signals between neurons, not a cognitive stage or step in the developmental sequence of learning. Memory, this is the name of the entire system, not a specific individual stage within the developmental process. Next question. Which of the following is an example of sublimation of the escape instinct? 1. To teach students how to play karate. 2. Forming teams in sports. 3. Running away at the sight of a tiger. 4. Living with superiors. Correct answer: forming teams in sports. Sublimation is a mature defense mechanism where primitive or socially unacceptable instincts are redirected into socially accepted, productive activities. The escape instinct. In its raw form, this is the impulse to avoid social interaction, conflict, or perceived failure by running away or withdrawing. Sublimation into sports. By joining a sports team, an individual transforms the urge to avoid social engagement into an organized, cooperative endeavor. Instead of fleeing, they channel that energy into structured social bonds, mutual support, and strategy, converting an instinct for isolation into a drive for shared success. Why other options are incorrect. Karate training, this is a form of sublimation, but it typically redirects aggression or self-defense instincts, not the specific instinct of flight or escape. Running away from a tiger, this is the unsublimated fight or flight instinct. It is a direct, reflexive survival response to immediate physical danger. Living with superiors, this illustrates social hierarchy, respect, or submissiveness, rather than the creative transformation of an escape instinct into a positive social activity. Next question. Which of the following assumptions is incorrect for constructivism proposed by Merrill? 1. Knowledge is created through experience. 2. A discussion about the meaning of the learning leads to an exchange of perspectives, but one's own internal stance remains constant. 3. Concepts are formed through the active processes of giving meaning to experiences. 4. In learning, the external world is interpreted at the individual level. Correct answer. A discussion about the meaning of the learning leads to an exchange of perspectives, but one's own internal stance remains constant. The incorrect assumption for Merrill's constructivism is 2. A discussion about the meaning of the learning leads to an exchange of perspectives, but one's own internal stance remains constant. Constructivism posits that learning is an active, dynamic process of cognitive reorganization, not a static state. Why it is wrong? The assumption that an internal stance remains constant contradicts the core constructivist principle of accommodation. When learners discuss and interact, they are expected to encounter new information or conflicting perspectives that challenge their existing mental models, schemas. The goal of constructivism: learning occurs precisely because the learner modifies their internal stance or worldview in response to social interaction and new experiences. A constant, unyielding internal stance would represent a failure to learn or adapt to new knowledge. The other options correctly reflect constructivist tenets. Knowledge is built through experience. 1. Concepts are formed by actively assigning meaning. 3. And the external world is interpreted individually. 4. Next question. Which of the following statements does not show the difference between teaching methods and teaching strategies? 1. The concept of strategies comes from military, while the concept of methods comes from pedagogy. 2. Strategy considers teaching as a science, while methodology considers teaching as an art. 3. Expected behavior and learning conditions relate to strategy, while content and presentation relate to teaching method. 4. Strategy adopts macro measures, while methodology adopts micro approaches. Correct answer. Strategy considers teaching as a science, while methodology considers teaching as an art. The statement that does not show a valid difference between teaching methods and teaching strategies is 2. Strategy considers teaching as a science, while methodology considers teaching as an art. This statement is inaccurate because it creates a false dichotomy between science and art that does not exist in professional pedagogical theory. Why it's invalid? In educational practice, both teaching strategies, the overarching, long-term plans, and teaching methods, the specific, step-by-step procedures, require a blend of both science, systematic, evidence-based, data-driven planning, and art, creativity, intuition, and responsiveness to student needs. Neither is exclusively scientific or artistic. The true distinction, valid differences between the two concepts are based on scope and intent. Strategies, macro, these are the broad, global, long-term plans designed to achieve ultimate learning goals. Methods, micro, these are the specific, practical procedures and presentation techniques used within a chosen strategy to deliver content. The other options in the question, 1, 3, and 4, represent established, widely accepted distinctions in educational planning regarding their origins, focus, what versus how, and scale, macro versus micro. Next question. Which of the following interactions are not included in cultural interaction? 1. Celebrates national festivals being Indian citizen. 2. Participate enthusiastically in festivals of different religions like Xmas, ID. 3. Analyzes social phenomenon with scientific attitude. 4. Goes walking to Pandharpur on Ashadi Ekadashi. Correct answer. Analyzes social phenomenon with scientific attitude. Cultural interaction involves active participation, exchange, celebration, or the integration of cultural elements, beliefs, traditions, or practices between individuals or groups. Why it is excluded? Analyzing a social phenomenon with a scientific attitude is an act of objective study or observation. It requires distance, logic, and critical framing to understand culture from the outside. The distinction. While scientific analysis is a way to study culture, it is not an interaction within culture. The other options, celebrating national festivals, 1. Participating in interfaith festivals, 2. And going on a pilgrimage, 4. Are all direct, experiential forms of participating in and engaging with the cultural fabric itself. Next question. Which of the following statements is not suitable about necessary behavioral change for stress management? 1. To take balanced diet. 2. To decide priorities of work. 3. To keep negative attitude. 4. To do planning of work and time. Correct answer. To keep negative attitude. Stress management relies on cognitive and behavioral strategies that promote resilience and control. Why it is unsuitable. Maintaining a negative attitude creates cognitive distortions, such as rumination, catastrophizing, and selective abstraction. These mental patterns cause individuals to interpret situations as unmanageable threats, which triggers a perpetual fight or flight physical response, thereby increasing stress rather than managing it. Why the others are suitable. Taking a balanced diet. Proper nutrition stabilizes physical systems, providing the body with the resources needed to handle stress. Deciding priorities of work. Clear prioritization reduces feelings of overwhelm, which is a major stress trigger. Planning work and time. Structured planning provides a sense of control and progress, which directly mitigates stress. Next question. Analysis of problem and preparing plan to solve it means dash. 1. Perception. 2. Thinking. 3. Imagination. 4. Imagery. Correct answer. Thinking. Analysis of a problem and preparing a plan to solve it defines the cognitive process of thinking. Why it is thinking? Thinking is an overarching cognitive function that involves manipulating information to perform systematic analysis and strategic development. Analyzing a problem requires critical reasoning to identify patterns and cause and effect relationships, while creating a plan involves synthesizing knowledge to structure a logical course of action. Why other options are incorrect. Perception. This is limited to the initial process of sensory input and interpretation, not the complex act of analysis or planning. Imagination. This capacity is focused on creating new, often unreal, mental content, which is distinct from logical, structured problem solving. Imagery. This refers to the mental recreation of sensory experiences like a visual map, which does not encompass the dynamic process of strategy and plan formation. Next question. To hide self-limitations, Amit shows his photos with hero-heroines to everyone and tells everyone that they invite him to their house. This is an example of dash. 1. Rationalization. 2. Identification. 3. Regression. 4. Compensation. Correct answer. Compensation. Definition of compensation. This is a defense mechanism where an individual tries to cover up perceived personal weaknesses or limitations by emphasizing or displaying desirable traits, achievements, or qualities in another area. Application. In this scenario, Amit is attempting to hide his own self-limitations by showing off photos with famous actors and actresses. By associating himself with these hero-heroines and claiming they invite him to their homes, he is attempting to boost his self-esteem and gain social approval to offset his feelings of inadequacy. Why the other options are incorrect. Rationalization. This involves creating logical-sounding excuses to justify unacceptable behavior or failures rather than actively trying to hide limitations by showing off. Identification. This involves consciously or unconsciously emulating or adopting the traits, values, or behaviors of another person, often a role model or authority figure, to boost one's own sense of identity, not hiding limitations by name-dropping or showing photos. Regression. This is the act of retreating to earlier, more infantile stages of behavior, like acting like a child when faced with stress or anxiety. It is not related to trying to appear important to others. Next question. Which of the following step is not included in Ausubel theory, which is developed after thinking content, student, teacher, and curriculum? 1. Mental readiness of student. 2. Learning objectives. 3. Information presentation. 4. Learning new concepts. Correct answer. Learning objectives. David Ausubel's theory of meaningful learning focuses on how new information is integrated into a learner's existing cognitive structure schemas. His model is primarily concerned with the internal organization of knowledge rather than the setting of goals or objectives. Why it is excluded? Learning objectives are typically associated with instructional design and curriculum planning, often linked to Bloom's taxonomy. But they are not a structural component of Ausubel's theory of meaningful verbal learning itself. The core components of Ausubel's theory. Mental readiness of the student. Ausubel emphasizes the learner's existing cognitive structure as the foundation for learning. Information presentation. This involves the use of advanced organizers to bridge the gap between what the student already knows and what they need to learn. Learning new concepts. This is the ultimate aim of the theory, when new information is subsumed into existing cognitive structures. That's it for today's study session. Remember, the right mindset changes everything, so keep your head up and always think positive. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, share it with a friend who needs a boost, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next masterclass. Stay focused, and I'll see you in the next one.